Hey, what is happening, everybody out there? This is Jakejames Lugo. Welcome to the channel, everybody. This is going to be a brand new definitive discussion for the new year, the first of 2017, hopefully the first of many throughout the entire year. And this time, I got a special guest. I got Mat4yo, my boy Mat4yo here. You guys might have checked out his YouTube channel. He's got over 18K subscribers right now. And like me, he's a fan of Pokemon. But today we're going to be talking about Pokemon Sun and Moon. We're going to have a deep dive into it. But Mat4yo, welcome. It's glad to have you here. Glad that we finally get to have a chat.
Absolutely. Yo, it's Mat4yo. Thanks for having me on, JJ. I'm excited to finally do something like this.
Yeah, this is going to be cool. So this is fun for me specifically, and I've been looking forward to something like this for a while because I never got to do a deep dive or real big in-depth discussion about a proper Pokemon game. So, again, like me, you love Pokemon. You did a whole album devoted to Pokemon, or at least, Pokemon related. It's called Pokemon Fire Rap. Okay, people can check it out on our YouTube channel now, correct?
Absolutely, yeah. There's a whole video experience where there's a music video for every single song on the album. Pokemon Fire Rap version, you can just look that up and you can find me there.
Yeah, there'll be links in the description box below, guys. But
Cool. Before
we get into any of that other stuff, let's talk about Pokemon Sun and Moon. Now, for me personally, Pokemon Sun and Moon was one of my best games of 2016. I feel like it was a very meaty game. I reviewed it on the Koalition.com. Again, there'll be links in the description box below for you guys to check it out. I scored it in the 90s. I thought that was a fair score. I thought it was very, again, it was a big game that had a lot of content. But even though it had its little gripes and little shortcomings here and there, but where do you stand on Pokemon Sun and Moon?
So I think that Sun and Moon was just such evolved from what we had in Gen 6
Definitely.
That it almost makes you look back at X and Y and laugh at it a little bit. Because
Really?
X and Y's big claim was the graphic overhaul.
Yeah.
So you see that, and it's like, wow, the graphics make this Pokemon game great. But once you have the graphics coming back in Generation 7 and being even better, now the Pokemon Company has to kind of think, we have to add more to this than just the graphics. And I think that where X and Y had that graphic overhaul, the story was a little bit lackluster in comparison to what we see in Sun and Moon. And it's just Sun and Moon, it's like, all right, now that we have the graphics, let's focus almost entirely on building the story up. And my God, the characters in this story, it was just incredible. It was such a step up from Generation 6. And I mean, going from just the Pokemon, like the way that they interact with each other, and the world of Alola, and something that I want to mention before I forget it, is that all the characters in Sun and Moon mean something to the story. Whereas, like, you get to meet the trial captains before you get to battle them as a trial captain. So they actually, like, there is some weight to the battle that you're having.
There's
it's
a
like
big build-up.
person.
There's a big, very, very big build-up, pretty much.
Of course. And there's games like Sun and Moon, there's games like X and Y and some of the ones before that where the gym leaders are just blank faces in a chair. And, of course, they propose a challenge to you, but they're not part of the story. They're not part of your experience as much as they are in Sun and Moon. And I think that character development is outrageously tremendous. I mean, it's huge. It changes the way you experience the Pokemon game. And I think that Sun and Moon incorporates so much of that into Generation 7.
Now, here's where me and you kind of divide a little bit. Even though I think we both agree that the game is fantastic. I think it's in my personal opinion, I think it's a must-own on Nintendo 3DS at this point. That if you're building up a library of 3DS games, Pokemon Sun and Moon is going to probably be your Pokemon game that's part of your collection.
Definitely.
One of the things that I think we agree on that we, again, even though we divide a little bit, is that I feel that the style of Pokemon Sun and Moon is what really makes this game, besides the content. The amount of content in Pokemon Sun and Moon is fantastic. You could go well over 60 hours with Pokemon Sun and Moon, no matter what version you get. I think that in this one, as compared to X and Y, like you were mentioning before, the heavily stylized look of Pokemon X and Y, I feel like this is the next evolution of that, where it gets a little bit much more looking realistic, quote unquote, kind of like in the same vein as like the actual anime series, where it borrowed elements from Yokai Watch. That was one of the biggest things that I took from it when I was reviewing it for the Koalition, is that when Yokai Watch 1 and 2 came out, they had things in there that I felt were better than Pokemon. They had a better map system. They had a better look for the characters. You could see some of the yokai in the worlds, and they look exactly how they look in battle, even though, again, you're looking at the overhead map view. And I feel that Pokemon needed that, and it just made everything that much more better. You're no longer like back in the 90s, or even, some of the later iterations of the game, where you're just looking at sprites that don't necessarily look like exactly like how the Pokemon look in battle, like they're very generic and stuff. Now you actually get the individuality, you know, and the personality and just the design of every single Pokemon in the world map. It just makes the world feel a lot more fresher, feels a lot more detailed, feels a lot more, again, intricate with everything that's going on. And I felt that worked to the game's benefit. Now, what do you think of the Pokemon, you know, selection, the variants? I know the Alola forms of the Pokemon were a very big deal, which I praised in my review. I thought that was very cool because Pokemon that we've seen since Generation 1 have been the same for a long time. And it's good to get that fresh coat of paint for them. Like, again, Sandshrew, Sandslash, Exeggutor, the list goes on. Marowak, I thought, was the coolest Alolan form because, again, just the bone staff that had the flames on it. I thought that was very cool. But where do you stand on the Alola forms?
Okay, so the Alola forms, I think that of all the things that Sun and Moon added, while none of them are bad, I think that the Alolan forms is a little bit lower on my list, only because the idea itself is really fascinating to bring old Pokemon back and change the way that they look and the way that they behave based on the habitat.
Yeah.
But now that you have that idea, and they jogged with it, they didn't run with it. So, like, Alolan Exeggutor, like, is the pinnacle of what we expected out of the Alola
That was
form.
such a crazy redesign of that character.
Crazy. Like, and that's exactly what I wanted to see from the rest of it. But we got some of them that didn't really make any sense and didn't change things too much. Like, say for instance, like Meowth. Like, you just change the type to dark and change its skin
and a big head,
a little bit of attitude,
and a big head.
So like, what is the reasoning for that being in the Alola region? I feel like some of them were just an excuse to change the way that they looked. And meanwhile, like, that would be okay if we kept them but added more. But we robbed Pokemon like Jinx from getting a Luau version, and like just. There were so many Generation 1 Pokemon that could have adapted to the tropical climate in the same way that Exeggutor did, but got left out, like I mentioned, Jinx. So, and there's only, like 12 Alolan forms?
Something like that. They're very few, and I wish they would have gone further with it.
Of course. Like, I hate that Pokemon just remains in this slump of only giving fan service to Generation 1. It's kind of, like, you kind of feel like they're biased toward Generation 1 only because a large portion of the community that plays Pokemon is biased towards Generation 1.
Because they're so popular?
Let me say the untapped portion of the Pokemon fan base are people that have not kept up with the series. And in order to bring them back, they keep reinventing Generation 1 particularly because that's the one that the most people remember.
Now, do you think that's more because, not because of the games, but more because of the anime series? Because obviously when the anime first came here to America, that it was Generation 1, it was Ash Ketchum with Pikachu. Those were the Pokemon designs that we saw for a very long time. And then we had the games to kind of bounce off of that when we got Pokemon Red, Blue, and then Yellow and stuff. I can understand that and maybe a little bit of favoritism towards that, but I'm in agreement with you that I would have loved to see like different variations of some of the newer Pokemon that we got in this game, and even from the past like couple generations, to get like variations, and it gives you, you know, more reason to go back and get some of the same Pokemon, to get just different, you know, versions or different designs of those characters, or just, you know, quote unquote different Pokemon altogether.
Well, you know what piques my interest is that since you have Alolan versions of foreign Pokemon, that would mean that all the new Pokemon that got introduced in the Alola region are Alolan forms and do have the possibility to look different if they're located anywhere else in the Pokemon universe.
Like Kanto, Johto, or any of the other places. Like, yeah, that makes sense.
And they hint at that by using the term like Cantonian to describe the Meowth in your house. So it just really makes me wonder that if we were to ever visit older regions in the future, say for example, Diamond and Pearl remake, if we would see any Alolan Pokemon look different in a Sinnohian form.
Yeah.
You know?
I mean,
that would be
here's the thing, though. Here's the thing that really I get kind of worried about. While I do like you want them to go further with it, because I think, like, again, just the more variations gives you more reason to get the same type of Pokemon and see what's different about them. I feel like in the next game, if not whatever the third iteration of what the Pokemon Sun and Moon thinks, because the rumor is right now, guys, if you haven't heard, there might be Pokemon Stars for the Nintendo Switch, which again is just a rumor. But whatever the next game in the main series Pokemon games is, I feel like they might go overboard with that in the next game. And that's a dangerous thing because a lot of variety is great, and Pokemon is known for its variety in many different facets, but there is a thing that's too much variety, and there is a thing that's too much going overboard with something. Do you think that they'll probably do that with the Alolan forms, or not even just the Alolan forms, just the variant different region forms for similar Pokemon?
I don't want to see too many of them, and I like every time that they introduce new concepts like this, it makes me think like instead of increasing the number of Pokemon that exist, you are increasing the number that's not really calculated on a numerical system. So you have like Meowth, it's just one number on the Pokédex, but now there's two versions of it. So you're creating more work for yourself without expanding the amount of diversity that's in the Pokemon universe. So like the Alolan forms, it was like I kind of felt weird about it at first, but it's like, okay, now that you have it, I don't want to see you go half on it. I want to see you embrace it, and they do kind of, I feel like it was like 3/4 embraced because there was some good ones, but not a lot of them. When they go forward into the series, if it is something that they continue to make, I don't want to see it like half worked on. I want to see it fully fledged, like Mega Evolution.
Yeah.
Like you didn't get as many in ORAS as you did in X and Y, but there were a lot of good ones in ORAS, and they made use of them. Like it's like, all right, now that we're gonna take this leap, I want to see you reach the other side of the cliff instead of falling into a ravine.
Now, let me ask you this then, because we saw a little bit of it in Sun and Moon, but what do you think of that, when the different forms, again, whether it's Alolan, Kantonian, or whatever forms of the same Pokemon go different directions and stuff, do you think that it should primarily change not only just the type, but also the moveset and the type of weaknesses and the type of behavior of those particular Pokemon? Because I feel like with some of the Alolan forms in Sun and Moon, while there were variations of them, again, like, for example, looking at Meowth and Persian like that, they didn't really go too divergent with the types of moves and the type of stuff that particular Pokemon variant can do like that. Like, do you think maybe they should go even further with that, just again to really dichotomize that type of Pokemon?
Yeah, I didn't see the efficiency in like changing Pokemon minorly like they did with Muck or Meowth. Like with Muck, like I looked at it literally the exact same base stats as regular Muck, just Dark type added, and it's like a rainbow now. So like I would like to see, like, if there should be a reason for Pokemon to change due to the environment, I want to see a drastic change. Like Alolan Executor keeps the grass type, but that's a drastic change. And like Alolan Raichu, like I don't see the justification of why that's in the Alola region other than the surfing thing, but then it's like a psychic type, so you get into the technicality of it. But there's like Ninetales, like that, like drastic change, like Ice and Fairy from a fire type.
Sandshrew.
Like that. Sandshrew. I think that's what we should be seeing out of the variants, because like we might as well just have the original if you're barely going to change it.
True. Good point. Now, let me ask you this, and I think this was also another point that I covered in my review, and I feel like this is the more easier game in the series to date, at least from my experience. Again, I think pretty much me and you and probably a lot of people listening to this now have probably played all the mainstay Pokemon games, besides the side stories and stuff. I find this one to be the easiest one I've played to date, because I felt like at some point during the main story, when you were going through the island challenge and you were getting the different Z crystals, that you get from the different, the different challenges that you do for, I forgot the name of them right now. Not the shamans, the, trying to
Kahunas?
think. Yeah, the kahunas and stuff. I felt like at some point I started getting them very, very quickly. And I felt like, besides some of the other events in the story that was dealing with like the other worlds and all this other stuff, again, minor spoilers here if you haven't played Pokemon Sun and Moon, but there was a point where all of a sudden I was getting like 3 or 4 crystals within a very short span of time as I was progressing the story. Do you think like that this game was a lot more easier than normal?
Okay, so looking back at the comparison between X and Y and Sun and Moon, because clearly you had the whole change in the formula with the experience share.
Yeah, definitely.
I recently played Pokemon Y version before Sun and Moon came out, and the whole time I kind of felt bored by it. Because it's like there was no challenge. It literally took me probably a day and a half to beat Pokemon Y. Now with Pokemon Sun, when it came out, I was worried that I would have that same experience. I left the experience share on for my first playthrough, but it took me 3 days to beat Sun and Moon. Like I didn't feel like it was as easy as X and Y. And when I went back, I recently just finished playing Pokemon Moon version, so I played both Sun and Moon now. I played Moon without the experience share, and I did feel somewhat of a challenge from it. Now, I'm not saying that it was the hardest Pokemon game, because if we're talking about like Pokemon Emerald back in the day, like that was like grind time,
Beast.
Like I didn't think that Pokemon Sun and Moon was necessarily grind time at all, but I felt that it was right down the middle for where you could get into it if you're a younger person, and if you were older and more experience in the franchise, you could feel somewhat of a challenge, but really bask in the glory of the experience rather than the challenge in Pokemon Sun and Moon.
Now, I played with the experience share. I think like most people will play the experience share, play with the experience share on throughout their experience and stuff. And that does sound like a way to kind of like, up the challenge a little bit or may give you a different experience. But I still felt like I didn't need to grind throughout Pokemon Sun and Moon. I played Pokemon Sun version as my primary version for the experience. Again, even though I had a dabbing in both, but it wasn't where even in Pokemon X and Y, and I played Pokemon Y at the time, I still didn't feel the need or the heavy desire to go out and grind like crazy as I did in like much earlier versions of the games. For obvious reasons, one or another. But I felt like this one was a little bit much more streamlined where your level and like your experience and the access that you have to certain attacks or the level of strategy that you need against different kahunas or different battles that you get involved in kind of went hand in hand as you progress through the story. I think by the end of the story, again, maybe some Pokemon probably be like between level 50, 60. And again, as you get further down more towards the end game content, you get even higher than that. But it wasn't like where, again, like either in Pokemon Emeralds or even earlier games like that, like Pokemon Heart Gold or Soul Silver, where at some point there's that wall you hit. And you have to kind of, improve the stats, improve the power, really pay attention to the moves that you have for all your Pokemon within your party. I didn't get that with Sun and Moon.
I don't think that we should come to expect that from Pokemon anymore. I think that Sun and Moon was a step in the right direction for difficulty, but I think that the series is at a point where they're not focused on making the game too difficult. They're focused on making the game good. And whether or not you use difficulty in your judging of whether or not it was good or bad, I think that the shift of focus is definitely present in Sun and Moon. But I think it was a step in the right direction. I think that if we were to keep moving in this direction, it would get more difficult as the generations progress. But I think that Generation 6, X and Y, definitely the easiest games that we've had so far. I think that is the valley between Generation 5 and 7 is X and Y. And we're going a little bit back up in difficulty with Generation 6. But like you said, I'm sorry, Generation 7. But the grind didn't need to be there if you didn't want it to. Like, I took some time to grind just for my own personal sake of feeling accomplished about it. But then I was over-leveled. So I think that, overall, if you just raised the level of the enemy Pokemon across the board, I think you would see a hike in difficulty that is needed by people who want to have a challenge. But overall, I think that it was a little bit more challenging, but it could be more challenging.
True, good point. Now, one of the things I think that we also should discuss, even then, before we move on to that, consensus, probably the best entry point of the series for someone that's maybe never played a Pokemon game. Maybe they're younger, maybe they're older, that they just never took a deep dive into the series. Do you think Pokemon Sun and Moon is their ideal game to start off with?
Oh, I think Pokemon Sun and Moon is definitely a good introductory game for younger players or newcomers. However, I think that you would have to make an unwanted adjustment if you were to go back and play older games from Sun and Moon, because you would have to adapt to now every game before Sun and Moon has HMs in it. So you need to build your team around that. So it's like I feel like it's a really great game to get people excited about Pokemon. But if you were coming in to Sun and Moon first and you wanted to go backwards, you would almost be incentivized to not play older games, because that amount of cumbersome activity that you have to partake in with the older games and the HMs is just not there in Sun and Moon. So it would be like a whole new experience going back that you might not want to have. So, if you could look to the older games as a challenge for newcomers, but as long as Sun and Moon is grasping newcomers into the series, I think it's going to hold them there.
I agree, and I think that's actually a really good thing. And it's kind of weird to say that because I love Pokemon Blue. That was my first game, back in the day when the series really started to kick off here in the United States. And I love Heart Gold and Soul Silver. I think that for me, for a long time, that was the definitive Pokemon game because there was just so much to do in there. But I'm kind of in agreement with you where it's like it's very tough for someone that's newer to go back into some of the older games because all the newer stuff that they maybe probably enjoyed that really probably was like the pushing point for them, or the thing that pushed them into getting into the series now this point won't be there, or at least might be a little bit much more difficult or a little bit more archaic in some forms, because again, experience share back in the older games doesn't really work the way that it does now. It doesn't work for your entire party. It works for one Pokemon like that. And I think I forgot which game specifically at that point worked where it worked for the entire party. But like things like that are big game changers for the way that it ebbs and flows as you go from point to point throughout the entire experience. The other thing also I want to touch on is completing the Pokedex. Now, throughout my time playing Pokemon Sun and Moon, even though it's a mainstay staple that you have to try to complete the Pokedex, it's like a quote-unquote side quest of the entire experience, but I never really cared about it as much in Pokemon Sun and Moon. Even though there's all these, again, there's different Alola forms for certain Pokemon, and there's all these other new Pokemon to discover and capture and stuff, it wasn't one of the driving forces for me, throughout my entire time playing it. Maybe as I go back now, and again, I'm really deep into the game, like most other people that played it when it first came out, but it wasn't anything that really was in the back of my mind. And that's a first for me, because in other Pokemon games previous in the series, I've always wanted to do that. It was always something that lingered for me. Like, did you experience that or no?
Yeah, so with the Pokédex, the only driving incentive to complete it is the Shiny Charm. If you take away the Shiny Charm, there is no story incentive to catch them all in the game. And I think that the reason that they put the Shiny Charm in there for only the Alola Dex is because they don't really have plans to make all Pokemon accessible at least in an easy way anytime soon for the whole National Dex. Yeah. Now in Generation 6 in ORAS, my Alpha Sapphire version, I organically completed the entire National Dex.
That's a lot.
Okay. And that, it was invigorating. Like, I wanted to get there. You got rewards for it. You got that poster that you can put in your secret base.
Yeah.
And you got like the commemorative banner with all the old Generation 3 textile sprites, and you got to look at that. Just having that was really amazing to put in your secret base and show it off. There was something to flaunt about it. And you got the Shiny Charm. In Pokemon Sun and Moon, there is nothing to flaunt except the Shiny Charm. Now, of course, they want to give you the Shiny Charm as soon as possible so that people can start shiny hunting and making a big fuss about it online. But like you mentioned, there is no other driving incentive to complete the Pokédex besides that. And, where is the reward for it besides the Shiny Charm? It's almost like completing the Pokédex was an underground thing. It's like they slid you the Shiny Charm under the table and basically forgot about it,
It's not like in the older games. I think it was both in Red and Blue that when you complete the Pokédex, you could go to, I think it was, what was it? Was it Saffron City or one of the cities in there where you go and you actually meet the game developers and they give you like a little thing that says congratulations on completing the Pokédex. I didn't hear anything about that, for Sun and Moon, but I always wondered and why they never did it where they could kind of, connect some sort of epic side quest that just extends far beyond the end game, where you meet other characters, or at least interact with characters you maybe have met before, but then certain conversations change when you complete the Pokédex, or at least when you get close to complete the Pokédex. Because I feel like it'd be even more. Why. Yeah, why is that?
I think it's because back in the day of Pokemon, you have 151 of them. Catch them all is very feasible. It's a shorter number, but it's a number that you can easily visualize. It's something that you can reach. It's within your reach.
Now we're past 300.
Yeah. Now you have 802 Pokemon.
Jeez.
Catch them all can still be the motto, but the Pokemon Company knows that it's really an insane task to catch them all. Even for them to make all the Pokemon available in one game is insane.
That's a lot of Pokebank, straight up.
Of course. Pokemon ORAS, it was possible because you have the accessibility to Generation 5, and you have X and Y, and the whole Hoenn region. You have a wide slew of diverse Pokemon to be able to complete your Pokédex, right? In Sun and Moon, there's 802 Pokemon. You're not coming close.
That's a lot.
without gimmicking through Pokemon Bank. So for them to go out of their way to create a whole side quest only for the select handful of people who will go out of their way to gimmick Pokebank to get all the Pokemon, it sounds like something that wouldn't like a marketing choice would be a waste of time. So I feel like that would be awesome. It would be an awesome reward for people who wanted to be as ambitious enough to reach that point. But it would almost be like they're wasting their time for 100 people to do that. So True. I don't know.
Good point. Do you think Mystery Gift, Mystery Gift will kind of somewhat help with that? Because I use Mystery Gift all the time. I think it's getting free extra content, free Pokemon here and there that you can use in other portions of the game makes things kind of easier. You could even argue with the same thing with the demo for Pokemon Sun and Moon that when you completed it, you got Ash Greninja that kind of made a huge portion of the game somewhat more easier like that. But do you think like maybe Mystery Gift or other events like that could help alleviate that, or is it just still like nigh impossible?
Well, I think what the Pokemon Company needs to do is continue creating hype in those kinds of events. So like all year last year, 2016, you got a new Pokemon every single month.
Yeah.
Like that was an excellent way to streamline the entire year and say, yeah, we're going to keep giving you stuff all year long. Pokemon, the company itself, should give an incentive for people to keep going back to play the game by offering rewards. Now I'm not saying that they should make it that they should render the rarity of certain Pokemon absent. That they should say, like, I know that you're going to go really out of your way to get this one Pokemon, but here it is for free if you click on Mystery Gift. But I think that, like, older legendaries maybe, like, the stuff that they've been doing, I think that facilitates the Pokédex process and the idea that you can, in fact, catch them all even though that legendary Pokemon may not be native to the region that you're playing in.
So, do you think like maybe instead of doing the legendaries like that, I mean, I can understand the older legendaries from like, way earlier generations, but what about like, going from like generation 4, 5, 6, and maybe not legendary Pokemon, but like Pokemon that maybe are kind of uncommon to an extent, but have like special things about them that might get people excited for looking at them again.
Yeah. I mean, I even think like in downtime, like where stuff like isn't being hyped up, you can still give away Pokemon like Maractus. Or just like random ones that you're never gonna find, just like gift them on Mystery Gift. I don't know. I mean, I'm not on their marketing team, but maybe they have something different in mind. I'm just saying that I would like to, like, there is a Mystery Gift. Like, let's make use of it. Like let's give rewards for people who check in all the time.
Yeah. You know what that could also work with? Pokemon that you have to trade in order to evolve, like a Graveler to a Golem or a Machamp. The list goes on and stuff. Now I want to touch on like one of the final topics we're going to discuss here on this show. I want to discuss where does Pokemon go next. Now that Pokemon Sun and Moon is out, and I think it's great, I think it's phenomenal, I think that a lot of people have taken a real liking to it. Again, a must-own on the Nintendo 3DS. Where does the series go next? Now, there's been rumors here and there floating around all over the place. You hear about them a lot. Pokemon Stars being on the Nintendo Switch, even though we don't know what the Nintendo Switch is at the time of this recording. But then you have all the spin-off titles and such, and people have been clamoring for a real Pokemon title on home consoles. I've always said that you can make an epic RPG experience with Pokemon on a console because you're not limited to the hardware of a portable device. I mean, you can only do so much on the Nintendo 3DS. Even back then, you could have only do so much on the Game Boy, so much on the Game Boy Advance, etc., or the DS. I feel like, besides the spin-off titles that you get, like Pokken Tournament, which I think is a whole nother conversation in of itself. I've talked way too much about it. And then you get all these other experiences like Pokemon Rumble, you get Pokemon Snap, you get everything else. But for me, I want to see a console Pokemon experience. I want to see an RPG experience that maybe might not be considered canon to the Pokemon series, as far as the main series on portable devices, but something where it could really show and flex the muscles of that series, that the creative muscles of Game Freak or of Nintendo, etc., the Pokemon Company. But where do you think that the series should go next after Pokemon Sun and Moon?
So we have had the last two generations only introduce like 60 to 80 Pokemon. There's a reason for that. They know that Pokemon's lifespan is much longer than the amount of Pokemon that they're going to eventually want to limit the dex to.
True.
So they're going to keep that number low in order to keep the series alive. Now, as for games, we've always kept in the back of our heads that Pokemon would always be a handheld portable game because the whole idea of Pokemon is that there's monsters in your pocket, that you are on the adventure on the go, that you can take it anywhere, and that your DS effectively becomes your portal to the Pokemon world that you can bring anywhere and connect with other people who bring their portals with them.
True.
And it's like you almost think in your head, I can only see a Pokemon game on console working if somehow the console could also be portable. And then your eyes light up and you say, oh my god, that is the Switch. Mm-hmm. Definitively, that is the Switch.
Definitively, yeah.
I think that if there were any time to make a Pokemon game that would be expansive at home but also portable on the go, it's the Switch. I think that they need to capitalize on this by making a game. I mean, this is just like a bucket list kind of pipe dream right here, but I would love to see where every single region was on console and
that's exactly
and
what
you
I
could
thought.
and the way that they make it work portable, say for instance, if it was like if you couldn't bring all the regions with you, and I'm talking like hardware limitations or like data capacity, if you physically couldn't bring the other regions with you, that you would like there would be some convenient way to lock into one region and then bring that wherever you go. Like it's just been a dream of mine to be able to free roam among all the regions of Pokemon that we've been to, and I think it's a bit of a stretch to say that I can expect that in 2017. I don't know, but I think that a game on the Switch where it's much more expansive at home and also allows us to be on the go is something that we can expect in our future. I think that it's possible.
And that's the whole thing. Is that's what I always felt was the next step for Pokemon. Like when it finally decided to go even further, beyond what you see in some of the other spin-off titles. What exactly? How can you make the world of Pokemon feel even bigger, or just give more to the people and all that other stuff, that have devoted so much time into it? I want multiple regions. Like I always said, the best part about Pokemon Gold and Silver was that you had the entire Kanto region after you finished with Johto, which blew people's minds. And we have what is it? Iwata-san to thank for that one, because he was really intricate into making that happen.
I know the story behind that is ridiculous.
It's insane. Yeah, exactly. Like the whole development process behind that is insane. But like that was one of the big things about Pokemon Gold and Silver that people loved, and why people swear by that game. People love Soul Silver and Heart Gold is because there was 2 regions in there. I always felt that if you got that series on consoles and it was a proper Pokemon game the way it was designed, again, it doesn't even have to be a mainstay Pokemon game because it's not on a portable platform. But if you did that and it played like Pokemon, it was a whole separate other thing, had online capabilities, connected to the internet, trading, battling, whatever, and you had more than 3 regions in there, or 3 or more regions in there, it'd be the definitive Pokemon experience, because it would be literally building a Pokemon world that's like in the same vein as like a classical RPG or Japanese RPG that was just huge, offered so much content, again, 50, 60 plus hours of experience that goes well beyond that. It'd be absolutely insane. With the Switch, I think that it's great that it's going to blend both console and portable gaming devices. Again, we don't really know exactly what the Switch is as far as like the core of it and everything else that goes along with what that console is going to be. We'll know very soon at the time of this recording. But again, I'm agreeing with you. I feel like Pokemon is ideal for a console that with that type of design choice in mind.
The only problem is that I'm going to have to buy 2 Nintendo Switches, one for me, one for my brother, if there's a individual experience waiting for us in Pokemon.
Yeah, right? I mean, the other thing, too, I think it's also important to know is that, keep in mind, Pokemon Sun and Moon is on Nintendo 3DS. The Switch is going to have to communicate with those games or that console when it comes out with their own Pokemon experience. At least if those rumors, or at least, the talk right now that we get Pokemon Stars is to be believed. But also, even then, I feel like whatever the next Pokemon game can be, and it'll probably be on that platform if possible, is that they could really take advantage of those capabilities. Like you said, having a certain region with you locked into whatever the portable device is going to do when you go to different places like that. And then when you finally lock it back in place, have the rest of the actual game open up to you, because again, you have more hardware resources to devote to building up something like that. Again, the logistical part of it could get a little bit confusing, but I think the potential there is amazing. One of the other things also I want to ask you is about spin-off titles. Now, I liked Pokken Tournament. Again, like I said, that's a whole other conversation of itself. But what are some of the type of Pokemon spin-off titles you want the series to go into, or you want to see come back?
Pokemon Pinball, please.
Really?
I love.
Like, really?
It's just like my little personal thing. Like, I loved Pinball, Ruby, Sapphire, Emerald. We need to see a new Pinball. I'm just saying that as like a joke. Like, I actually love some of the spin-off games, like Pokemon Picross. I don't know if anybody played that, but I got so into that. Like, I completed the whole game. Like, Picross is like stimulates your brain to a new level. Like, I love it because I'm like a critical thinker. I love like I've actually used some tactics that I developed in my brain for Picross to like just into making arguments. Like, it's crazy how they overlap with each other. But to be serious, we need Pokemon spin-off titles to, I guess, attract an audience that isn't involved in Pokemon. So, for example, the fighting community, the
Tekken community. What were you saying? I can't hear you.
Yeah, Tekken, like Street Fighter. Maybe you want to bring their audience and have them take a look at Pokemon and bring some of the charm in Pokemon to a new audience. I think that like Pokemon Snap, maybe we could see again.
I think
But
that's the biggest one, to be honest with you.
yeah, I
Pokemon
would like
Snap.
to see. Yeah, I would like to see updated versions of older concepts and some new ones come to the foreground as well. Like we had Pokemon Shuffle, Pokemon Battle Trozei. We had some of that come back in Generation 6. There was a lot of spin-offs in Generation 6. Like we even had a Rumble game in Generation 6.
Yeah.
So I'd like to see what Generation 7 has to offer. And also the longevity of Generation 7. Like how long are they going to wait before jumping into a new generation? And is this generation going to get a remake of a main series game is the big question.
Now, one of the spin-off titles I've always said that could be so much more better if it controlled better and just played out better was Pokemon Mystery Dungeon. Now, in the past, I'm notorious for giving a bad score to Pokemon Mystery Dungeon Gates to Infinity. Like, people were really mad at me because of that. And the reason why I gave it that and why I felt and I stuck by it is because I felt like the game could be so much more better and have a phenomenal experience. It'd probably be the definitive Pokemon spin-off title if it controlled like Pokemon Rumble. One of the things I always said, even though Pokemon Rumble has its issues and stuff, the control in it, the one-to-one, like real-time, again, battling like that, I felt was awesome, even though it's not really a Pokemon mainstay title where you're using toys of Pokemon rather than the Pokemon themselves. Pokemon Mystery Dungeon, when I was looking at Pokemon Mystery Dungeon Gates to Infinity, and what I was hoping for Super Mystery Dungeon was that it would move in that direction, where, okay, in the story is like you're becoming a Pokemon, but it's like a dungeon crawler RPG. And I think, to me, that sounds awesome. That sounds phenomenal. That sounds amazing. But the problem was that it tried to control like a traditional Pokemon battle system where it was like your turn, my turn, your turn, my turn. And it's like that just did not work for me. Or at least I felt like it didn't come together as good as it should have. But if they borrowed that control scheme from Pokemon Rumble and put it into that type of experience where it's like a 20 or 30 plus hour dungeon crawler RPG, this would be amazing. That would be phenomenal.
Well, I think you're asking for a different game at this point because most of the spin-offs come from a certain foundation of maybe it's part of another game or something that already existed. And Pokemon Mystery Dungeon is derived from the Mystery Dungeon types of crawlers where it's like a turn-based battle system where you walk through a dungeon and every step is a turn and you have to consider what steps to take in a certain order in order to make it through the dungeon. And I think that what you're asking for would be like a free roam, real time one-on-one battling system.
More like a roguelike, like Diablo.
As a Pokemon, yeah. So I think that you shouldn't expect that from Mystery Dungeon. I think that what you're asking for is a different kind of game. And hey, I'd be excited to see that too. But Mystery Dungeon at its foundation is the turn-based crawler. So I don't think you're ever going to see anything different come out of a Pokemon game with Mystery Dungeon slapped on the title.
Yeah, I just don't think it came together as well, like when I was playing stuff. But that is a good point. Okay, like again, I would more akin to it like a roguelike, like Diablo, or even was it Brutal? That just came out on PlayStation 4, something like that. But within the Pokemon universe, I think could work and stuff. Now, there's again a barrage of other Pokemon spin-off titles that could work and such here and there. But what about Pokemon and other franchises? Obviously, the big one is Super Smash Brothers. I think that Pokemon has a huge representation in that series. But I would love to see little nods or even other appearances and cameos of Pokemon in other Nintendo franchises. I mean, any ones that you could think of off the top of your head?
Well, I think that Pokemon is really reinventing itself as part of the culture today. Like, I went to the store the other day, and there was like a Vanity Fair magazine that had Pikachu on the cover, and it said "Best moments of 2016."
Pokemon
and it's
Go.
Like, yeah, I mean, it's crazy. Like 2016, walking around and just seeing Pokemon just as part of your everyday, like in random stores and in random places. Like, it really made you feel like the whole year 2016 was being part of a Pokemon world. And I think that the more Pokemon gets normalized, the more we can expect it to be featured in other series. Like, I don't really play too many games besides Pokemon, but like, I guess some other Nintendo series, like maybe Mario could hint at like Pokemon outfits, maybe if they were to introduce that. Like, I don't think that there's too much to expect coming from other games because I think that Pokemon is the series that we'd expect references to other games in rather than the other way around. I don't know. I mean, maybe there will be some cultural references to Pokemon in the future. I don't really see that as a make or break for any game in particular, in my opinion.
True. I think the biggest one is Pokemon Go. That's the biggest leap.
Yeah.
Again, while still maintaining the essence of the franchise, but moving into another medium, which I think was great. Granted, it wasn't developed by Nintendo, it was developed by Niantic and stuff, but I think it's a good example to set for other Nintendo franchises, maybe making the leap to mobile, or maybe taking those risks and trying something completely different than the norm. It was still pretty cool to see that, but I would love to see more kind of like, you know, using the license towards other franchises within Nintendo's library of titles. I think that maybe, again, there's a lot of crazy mashups that they could probably do that's outside of Super Smash Bros. Like, imagine Pokemon making an appearance in a new Earthbound game, even though that's a whole other discussion in of itself. But, like, you know, things like that sound goofy in of themselves, or, you know, when you talk about them, are goofy on paper. But again, it could make, you know, some interesting ideas, interesting matchups. And
well, you could reverse the role and say, what if other series came to Pokemon? Look at Pokemon Conquest.
Exactly.
Like one of the greatest platformer, like, on handheld. Like, I love that game. Like, that game is awesome. And you figure, like, Nobunaga's Conquest, like, what is that? Like, I've never even played the original. But when you blend it with Pokemon and you bring the Pokemon charm and the Pokemon battle strategies and the formula to a different game, like, that worked so well. And I think that, like, I don't really want to see, like, a Pokemon Mario crossover. Like, that's just forcing at that point for, like, you're just ringing in the cash. But I feel like an actual tactical collaboration, like, I don't know what to expect. I don't even have anything on my wish list for that. But, like, who would have had Nobunaga's Conquest and Pokemon on their wish list to begin with? Like, it's kind of like a happy miracle right there. So I think that, I don't know, maybe moving into the future we can see some spin-offs that have crossovers, but I don't know what to expect from that.
True. Good point. Again, the possibilities are endless and stuff.
Absolutely.
But either way, Mat4yo, thank you for talking Pokemon with me.
Thank you.
This is fun. Like I said, I'm glad we got to do this because, again, we hardly ever talk like this, and it was just cool just to talk just Pokemon, just dive into it and such. Where can everybody find you on Twitter, your social media, everywhere?
So everything is Mat4yo. It's MAT4yo. So you can find me on Twitter, Instagram. That's my YouTube channel as well. 2016 was the year of Pokemon raps for me. I made a bunch of raps, including an entire album of songs that use Pokemon as a metaphor to tell a different story. It's very unique. It's not just the random Pokebars that you see from the other Poke rappers on YouTube, even though I collaborate with them and like their style. But it's, like, really different. You can check it out. Moving into 2017, I'm going to shift focus of the raps a little bit, but you can definitely expect Pokemon-related content from my channel.
Nice. Now, are you going to any events this year? Are you going to MagFest?
Yes.
Are you going to PAX? Are you going to E3? Where are you going?
I will be at PAX East in Boston.
Nice. We're going to hang out. We're going to hang out.
Yes, we are. Absolutely.
Yes.
I'm going to be performing there with video game rap battles. I think we're going to have a panel too, me and Cam and Kevin Crust, my producer. I think we're all going to be there. We're all going to hang out, and it's going to be awesome. And hopefully, you know, last year I didn't get to meet anybody who was previously a fan of me, but I got 10,000 subscribers in the last year, and hopefully I can get to meet some fans, just to meet up, say what's up. I have a lot of business cards to dish out like I did last year.
You got to hand them out like the Ninja Stars.
I didn't really get to talk to you or make friends with you in person at PAX last year, but I hope that changes this year. I hope we get to spend some time together.
We're rectifying that this year.
Absolutely.
We're getting pizza. Yeah. We're hanging out with people. We'll whip out Pokken tournament, and it's going to be real. It's going to be legit this year.
I'm excited.
Yeah, but definitely thank you. I hope you guys listening and watching this now enjoyed the discussion about Pokemon Sun and Moon. This has been a definitive discussion about Pokemon Sun and Moon. I'll have more of these throughout the year. Again, I'm going to be announcing whichever ones I'm going to be doing throughout the course of the year on my Twitter. Make sure you guys follow me on Twitter. Again, links are in the description box. All the links to all the relevant stuff that we touched on throughout this entire episode, there'll be links in the description box below. Subscribe to the channel, guys. Leave a like if you can. Leave a comment and tell me what you guys think of stuff like this. Again, I'm making little adjustments here and there between the audio quality and other little things to make these episodes much more better for you guys as you listen to them and follow them here on YouTube. But either way, that's all we got for you. I will talk to all of you guys again real soon. Peace out and stay epic, everybody.